The lecture dome of the Galactic Federation Academy hummed softly as dozens of alien students settled into their seats. The chamber was designed to accommodate nearly every known body structure in the Federation. Floating platforms held aquatic species and suspension tanks. Wide reinforced benches supported massive gravity-adapted creatures. Perches and elevated rails accommodated winged cadets from lighter worlds. At the center stood Professor Terrell Voss, the Academy's senior lecturer in comparative military anthropology. His elongated neck twisted slowly as he scanned the room through 4 luminous eyes. "Settle down." "Cadets," he announced, his voice echoing through the translation grid. "Today's session will include a live demonstration." That statement alone triggered immediate excitement. Live demonstrations rarely happened in this course. Most species preferred simulations rather than unpredictable biological combat. But today was different. Today, Professor Voss continued, tapping a control pad with a clawed finger, we are joined by a representative of a relatively new member species of the Federation. The holographic display behind him flickered. To life, a blue and green world rotated slowly. Planet designation: Earth. A ripple of whispers spread across the amphitheater. Species classification: human. Several students leaned forward. Others snorted. Dismissively, humans were still considered something of a curiosity. Their civilization had joined the Federation only 17 standard cycles earlier, and most galactic scholars still debated where they truly fit in the hierarchy of intelligent species. Earth itself carried the classification of a level 3 death world, not the worst, but dangerous enough to raise eyebrows. The doors at the far end of the lecture hall slid open. A lone figure stepped inside. Compared to most species in the room, the newcomer looked unimpressive. She stood barely 170 centimeters tall, with no visible armor, claws, scales, or natural weapons. Just 2 arms, 2 legs, smooth skin, and a calm, confident expression. "Cadets," Professor Voss announced. "This is Lieutenant Maya Alvarez of the United Earth Defense Corps." Polite applause scattered. Across the room, a few students didn't bother hiding their amusement. The towering Garvel warrior cadets chuckled openly. One of the insectoid Threxians clicked its mandibles skeptically. The lieutenant stepped to the center of the floor and gave a casual nod. "Thanks for having me," she said. Her translator converted the words into dozens of alien dialects. "Simultaneously, today I've been asked to demonstrate a few basic unarmed combat principles used in human military training." The statement caused several students to exchange confused glances. Finally, one of the avian Kalari cadets raised a wing. "Lieutenant," he said, voice tinged with polite curiosity, "are you referring to physical combat?" "Yes." The Kalari tilted his head. "But why would a technologically advanced species still rely on primitive close-quarters fighting?" A few students laughed quietly. "Lieutenant." Alvarez didn't seem offended. She simply shrugged, because sometimes technology fails. She gestured casually around the room. Power grids collapse. Weapons jam. Shields go down. Communications get scrambled. Her eyes swept across the amphitheater. "When that happens, you still need a way to survive," another student spoke up. This one belonged to the Varaxian species. A hulking creature with armored plates thicker than most starship hulls. "You expect us to believe a creature your size can defeat a trained opponent without weapons?" A few more snickers followed. The lieutenant smiled. "Let's find out." Professor Voss tapped his console. 3. Combat training drones rose from hidden compartments. In the floor, each machine stood nearly 2 meters tall and was plated in reinforced alloy. "These units are programmed," the professor explained, "to replicate the physical capabilities of a standard Federation security officer." The Varaxian cadet leaned back confidently. "That should be educational." The drones activated there. Optics glowed crimson. Simulation. Starting, the room's AI announced. The first drone charged. What happened next took less than 10 seconds. The human sidestepped. She didn't try to overpower the machine. Instead, she grabbed its arm, twisted at an impossible angle, and redirected the drone's momentum. The heavy machine slammed directly into the second drone. Both collapsed in a tangled heap. Gasps echoed across the room. The third drone lunged forward. The lieutenant pivoted smoothly. A quick movement. A sharp strike. The drone's arm locked at the joint, then its entire balance shifted. Metal crashed against the floor. Silence filled the amphitheater. 3 drones, all disabled. Time elapsed 9.6 seconds. Lieutenant Alvarez brushed imaginary dust from her sleeve. That was a standard defensive response pattern, she explained. Calmly, the students stared at her. Several neural monitors began recording spikes of surprise and stress. The Viraxian cadets slowly leaned forward. That was fortunate positioning, the human grinned. Sure. Professor Voss cleared his throat. Perhaps we should increase the simulation difficulty. Adjusted the drone parameters. New units rose from the floor. These models were larger, faster, designed for combat training with elite Federation. Marines, ready when you are, Alvarez said. The drones attacked simultaneously. This time the human moved faster. Much faster. Her motions blurred into controlled bursts of movement. She didn't fight like most species. There was no wasted energy, no wild swings. Every motion had a purpose. She targeted joints, balance points, and sensory clusters. Within seconds, the first drone lost mobility. The second crashed. After a precise strike to its stabilizer, the third managed to grab her arm. For a moment the room thought it had her, then she rotated. Her entire body, the machine flipped. Over her shoulder, the impact dented the floor. Simulation ended. Elapsed time 7.1 seconds. The amphitheater remained absolutely silent. Finally, a soft voice came from the back. A small amphibious student raised a trembling limb. Lieutenant, you said these were basic techniques? Yep, the student swallowed. What would advanced techniques look like? The human smiled again. Those are restricted. More silence. Even the Garvel warriors looked uneasy now. Professor Voss quickly ended the demonstration. Thank you, Lieutenant Alvarez. That will conclude today's. But the students weren't paying attention anymore. They were staring at the human, watching every small movement, as if seeing her species for the first time. After the lecture ended, the professor remained alone in the control room. He replayed the recordings again. And again, each viewing produced the same unsettling conclusion. Humans weren't the strongest species. They weren't the fastest. They didn't have natural armor, but they possessed something else. Entirely efficiency. Their entire combat philosophy revolved around exploiting weaknesses, turning strength against itself, winning fights they should never. When BAT Professor Voss slowly accessed the Federation, database computer, he said quietly. Update species threat assessment. Processing lights flickered. Recommendation ready, the system replied. Human. Classification upgraded. The professor felt a chill ripple along his spine. New category. Emergent apex combat species. He stared at the frozen image on the UHO screen. Lieutenant Alvarez was laughing with a group of students, friendly, relaxed, harmless. Unless she wasn't, Professor Voss whispered to himself. And those were only the basics.